of the staff and management of Salem Media of Hawaii.
Aloha and welcome to Be Fit for Health. This is Bianca, your host, and it's another great day for your health and well-being. I actually am really excited today. It isn't too often, you get a guest on the show that is at the highest level possible when it comes to the medical field. And, lucky enough through my connections and friends who know this particular doctor, he resides in Massachusetts. So it's about a 6-hour difference. So he's actually doing me a great favor by doing this phone interview at about 7:00 his time. And, we're going to be diving into a lot of different topics. This gentleman also is involved with the electroethoscope that we had on the show 2 weeks ago. So he's going to talk a little bit about that and how, a medical doctor can utilize this machine and help his patients. So, let me introduce you to who he is. His name is Dr. Richard Delany, and he's out in Massachusetts. And so, his background is no joke. He's actually quadruple board certified medical doctor. His practice is in integrative medical medicine, and he basically is certified in functional medicine. He's a cardiologist. He's a critical care doctor. He's geriatrics, so he's well-rounded when it comes to knowing pretty much a lot of areas when it comes to your health and well-being. I mean, this is the person you want to, if you want to pick someone's brain, this is the person you want to pick his brain for a lot of information when it comes to what is the proper etiquette of, taking care of your body. And, I thank him personally, before I bring him on to all of you. He's been around for 40 years practicing integrative, clinical medicine. And, he's been taking care of a lot of people. Dr. Delany, are you on?
Yes. Hello there. Yeah.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Fine.
Thank you so much. I was just telling everybody that the hours of differences is like 6 hours. So you've been kind enough to and generous enough to give me your time, for the next, 40 plus minutes just to kind of go over some, many topics. I mean, you're just so well-rounded when it comes to understand the human body. I'm ecstatic. I don't even know where to start with you because there's so many questions that I have that I want to go through, but I'll calm it down a little bit and start with, what got you into medicine and, what is your favorite aspect of being a doctor?
Well, no one in my family was medicine, but I had a family doctor. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and he was so kind.
Oh, that makes a big difference, doesn't it?
And I thought that I wanted to do that. And then when I got into medical school, they didn't know much.
No.
This disease is caused by this, and we don't know. So my most favorite thing is trying to find out why something happened, and I heard a little, you exaggerated. I'm not that smart. I'm still trying to figure things out. But
we all are.
But I've been around long enough to know what not to do, and first of all, not to think I know everything because I don't. So
Absolutely,
anyway,
we're always learning.
Yeah, so it's fun to try to figure things out and to help people.
So you're like a Dr. House then, on that TV show.
Yeah,
he's like a detective. You're always trying to figure out what is the root cause of this person's problem.
Yeah, that's the goal, really.
True. I mean, practicing medicine is not preventative anymore, it seems like, but it's getting there. I feel like there's more doctors becoming more integrative and functional. And I think, what you're doing is ahead of a lot of other Western medicine doctors, because you're using different modalities out there too. I kind of briefly, we can dive right into it, that you were also partnered up with, John Thorpe in the electroethoscope, using that with your clients.
Right.
And how did you come about doing that partnership? Because Western medicine usually doesn't look into like this type of stuff to help their clients with pain or rehab or what have you.
Well, another doctor I know who's an integrative doctor had some step-grandchildren who had a neurological condition, and he had bought one of John's machines and didn't have anybody and they lived near me, the patients lived near me, and they didn't have anybody to use the machine. So I went out to California and took the course that John gives, and I couldn't believe how it was helpful. So I got a machine myself. I helped the children, and basically it's a non-invasive machine that restores voltage in the body that for some reason has gone low, and it corrects many conditions. And for the audience, that means that if you have a bad back pain or a painful knee, this machine will take away the pain in a therapeutic way. It restores health by restoring voltage to the body, and then the body heals itself, and you get credit. It's kind of a racket. So, and John is a very amazing, powerful experience. He's been doing it for over 20 years. I've only been doing it for like 6 or 7, maybe 30 years. So
you both are very humble. Yeah, you guys are both amazing. Yeah, he's amazing too. I told the audience, I mean, I don't think they understand how lucky we are to have you on today, but I don't think they understood how lucky we were on to have John come on the show and talk about the machine, because of what he's doing and what you're doing with your clients. It's revolutionizing, even though it's been around for a while. It really does help your body speak to each other properly, in a way of giving it what it needs to do, what it's supposed to do naturally. And I think it makes a big difference. So go ahead.
One good example of that, if somebody has, and I'm sure the audience, they need a hip surgery, and because the hip bothers them, they have a degenerative hip, and you do the X-ray, it's bone on bone, and they wait around for a month to get the operation. Now the tissues around that hip are sick. The voltage is down, they're not flowing well, and the surgeon cuts into the tissues and takes out the bad hip and puts in a new hip and sutures you up, and then you go through a healing process. When I see a patient like that, for the 3 days, about 4 or 5 days before the surgery, I treat them with John's technology. It heals the skin and the tissue, and when the surgeon goes in and cuts into the skin, it's much healthier. They heal in 4 days.
Oh,
the
wow.
wound heals like crazy. And so you understand, no one understands the fact that the tissues, it's kind of common sense. The tissues in the right hip that the person's been struggling with for 6 months is not as healthy as in the left hip. And I can make that, I can use his body to clear some of the tissues so that the surgeon gets all the credit for a great operation.
Right. And then afterwards too, because of the great operation, the person heals so well. What a success, right? But
so I routinely patients who are going through shoulder surgery, hip surgery, knee surgery, I treat them for sure a couple of days before, so they walk into the ER or whatever way, and they come out better because the tissues heal better. And it's so simple and logical. It's amazing. It took me a few years to figure that out. So I was not smart until later. So anyway.
No, but you had to go through as a doctor. I mean, you and I briefly discussed, and you had sent me some information. I mean, to be a good doctor, you have to be aware of what's available, right? I mean, it's not just medication that you have to give your patients. You really got to understand, is there other modalities that we can use? Like you and I mean, you're a cardiologist. I have PVCs. It's a neurological heart condition. It's basically my wires aren't working properly, so my heart can contract itself properly and work well. So this machine actually works with me, because when I go see Kelly here, and she works on me in different Chinese points, she can get the nervous system in the heart to calm down, so I'm not having as many irregular beats. And then she calms down my program to a level where the fight or flight program is kind of shut down, and my body can start healing itself or regulating itself. This is the kind of stuff that doctors need to start looking at to help patients who may not be able to take medication, who may not be able to do those surgeries immediately, maybe to give some quality of life back to them to a level where they can exist. True?
Right. And it's hard for doctors who are entrenched in their practice to step outside the box and find a machine that traditional medicine doesn't recognize easily, and that they have to take time out to learn it, and they may have to take time out to buy it, and then their fellow physicians say, "What are you doing that about?" Well, and so it's sometimes hard to step outside the box. You can't judge them too hard because they don't know. But again, like anything, once you see it work, and when you see how it works, it's just amazing. You change your mind pretty quickly, but you got to put yourself in a position to learn. So whatever is real will always come to pass. It eventually comes out. But when you're so you can't criticize physicians too much because they just don't get a chance to see it.
No, or they don't. You may not be aware because the data. They may be looking more particularly to publications in like PubMed or something, and seeing how many journals were written on something, and what was the success story, or if it was regulated by FDA or something like that. So they want those protections behind something so that they can say for sure this can be a part of their business. But the proof is in the pudding, right, doctor? I mean, it's a matter of like how many people are saying they're getting these kinds of results. You can't dispute that.
And one of the most common indications is really back pain. Now, I've learned long ago the last thing you want to do is operate on the back because they most of the time do not get better.
Yeah.
If there's a clear disc pressing on a nerve and it's just happened and you can go in and take it out, yes. But generally, the success rate of operations are bad. And if you can non-invasively, and I challenge the audience out there, anybody who has low back pain, to find somebody in some state that has this technology and get 3 treatments.
Yeah.
3 treatments in a row, and you'll find your pain is much better. And it's not cured, but then you go back for another couple of treatments. And, it's just really so. That's what, the one nice thing is that if you find a practitioner that has this, and you have a condition that's been shown to be efficacious, they can just try it. And I know that you have somebody out there.
Yeah,
in fact, John's niece, right? It's John's niece. Yeah.
I mean, it's really rare to have somebody here that has this kind of technology. The frustrating part for her, I think, is that she's been trying to get this into many doctors' offices, and because we're an island and we don't have this many exposures to a lot of different things, people don't see the value in what she's doing that is so non-invasive and so specific. Because when you talk about NASA missile technology, which is a specific point to really looking at something so closely and such a small level, and you have this in a machine and a device that it may seem simple because it just looks like a suitcase with some, knobs and stuff. And then, they put a probe on you. What are they really doing? But in actuality, there's so much stuff going on in just not during those probes and electricity. It's frustrating for her because she just wants to educate everybody. Just like I do with the show, bringing people like you on and her on. I'm trying to expose things to people. And I'm hoping that when medical doctors hear the show or they listen or their patients hear it, they say there is an option, doctor, without me having to take the opioids or without me taking the Advils that eventually will hurt my liver or, other things. There is something that they can do. It may not be as, some people don't have the money to spend. I mean, that's the problem too. I mean, everybody's struggling right now. So what are you going to do? But it's worth your life, right? It's worth your quality of life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think your show has an opportunity to educate the public about modalities that they wouldn't normally hear from their own physician.
No. And
yet, depending on who you bring on, we become believable or not believable. But I can reassure you that this piece of equipment does amazing things for people. And his niece's name Kelly. Is that who? Yeah. So I don't know I don't know where she's working, but if somebody could just get 3 treatments from her for some condition, it would be very helpful.
She's worked on some major athletes, like where they've torn their knee up and they're about to do surgery, and they'll go see her for a little bit, and they go do the surgery, and they come back and see her again, and she'll work on them, and literally their healing process is cut in half. Or the shoulder. I had a few of my trainers that work for me, and I sent them to her because they had shoulder surgery, and they're telling me that their physical therapists are surprised at how quickly they're rebounding, which is impressive. So if there is something like this out there, and I'm somebody who's been seeing her for about a year, doctor, but my condition is different. Like I have a disorder, which is a neurological disorder, and I've been trying to work on shutting off the autonomic nervous system for a while now, because once it's turned on, it hasn't shut off the fight or flight program. And with her trying to get the vagus nerve to simmer down, trying to get my IBS simmer down, all that stuff. So she's got a lot to deal with me. And, so I had an episode again this week, and she did some reflexology with the machine on my feet and, put the plates on my back. And I got to tell you, my stomach, it feels much better. I can eat some food.
For those out there, reflexology many times is massage. If the different parts of our hands and our feet represent different organs,
right?
And if you massage that area, like the sinuses are along the toes, the tips of the toes and the feet. And when I massage my grandchildren that are 2 and 4 years old, and I'm massaging their feet, I'm sitting there, I'm not helping their sinuses, I'm helping their
exactly.
And if I told people that, they think I'm crazy, but it's true. It's true. So when you get your feet rubbed by somebody, they're actually helping your health.
And the spine has connections to the organs too. I keep telling people the central nervous system is like the director for where things work and where things go. So for me, when I was having the stomach issues, T6 is one of the areas in the spine that help regulate and control the stomach function too, neurologically. So I asked her, I said, please, whatever you can do with the probes, work in T6 area. Maybe there's something that's not working. Work in the stomach meridians, but also work on maybe L2 and maybe T12. And those are the intestinal parts of the spine. And so it's like, getting into Chinese medicine versus, DO type of, osteopathic medicine. And it just combined all that together with the electrochoscope and then doing that system. It made a difference. But you really need to know and understand the body too, to some degree, I think as a practitioner, because then you can explain it and bring the value to what you're doing. And I think she's somebody that can do that. So I'm hoping that her ability to educate people, here, especially, grows, because I think everybody needs it. I mean, I feel for people, I see people in pain because I am in pain all the time. I can sympathize, and I don't want people to hurt. It makes me sad when I see that. But so I want to ask you too, besides the electrochoscope, in your practice, sir, you got so many different backgrounds. What made you get into so many different modalities and getting certified in so many areas of medicine?
Curiosity. Why? Again, seeking why. I mean, everybody finds their own road in life. And so when you see patients and you learn cardiology, and then you have a system to address most conditions of the heart, you learn. And after you've seen the 100th person with a heart attack or high blood pressure or PVCs like you have, you understand the physiology, anatomy, and you understand what treatment remedies. And then you find that things outside medicine help the patient, and that sometimes help more than the other treatments.
Right.
And are cheaper.
Yeah.
So I begin to realize that many times we want to avoid drugs. Like the best example are the Motrins of the world and the Advils and the Aleve. They're anti-inflammatory, but they hurt your kidneys, they raise your blood pressure, they hurt the lining of your stomach. And if you can go to herbal medicines like boswellia or some form of turmeric, it's so much better, and it's simple.
Yeah.
And so you begin seeing that traditional medicine doesn't really have all the answers.
Yeah.
And certainly alternative medicine doesn't have all the answers either. So so I think then you become a seeker, and then they go all these questions. How would you want to treat your mother, your father, your brother, your sister?
Right.
You want to treat them integratively. You want to make sure they need a medicine, they get it. If they don't need a medicine, they don't get it.
Right.
Has someone looked to make sure that there's not something else? That there's some connection with the intestine that goes to the brain. We know that already. And so that's why when I realized that I'm not that smart. I'm still looking.
It's so complicated, isn't it? Isn't it weird that we've been doing medicine? Well, Chinese has been around for a lot longer than us, but we've been doing medicine for so long, and yet they're still struggling with the brain, and we're still struggling with the intestines. Like when I had a small bowel obstruction, the doctors at the hospital are telling me the intestinal, figuring out how to fix and heal or recover the intestinal issues is so complicated because of the length of the intestine being about 20 feet, right? It's like you don't know where it could be, and you don't want to cut into it, because if you cut it, develop scar tissue, then you're going to have other issues later on. We haven't figured out how to fix things yet. especially
We're
with the
getting
brain.
close, I can tell you that. With the intestines now, 2/3 of our immune system, 2/3, is below our deep below the intestinal lining, and it's designed to have a cover there that our immune system doesn't see everything coming through from the food we eat, bacteria there, and things like Roundup that they use to put on on plants. That destroys and hurts our lining of our intestines. And most people, when they eat fruits and vegetables, they're exposed indirectly to Roundup, and so they have a hidden irritant to their intestinal tract and not even know it.
Yeah.
And we find that once that intestinal lining gets leaky, they call it leaky gut, which is kind of a caustic remark, but a leaky gut, things get in, and all of a sudden the body begins having defenses against things it shouldn't, and they get autoimmune diseases. And there is a gut. All those out there, Google, and I tell my kids, Google gut-brain connection, and read how an intestinal disorder that you don't even feel is giving you brain fog. I mean, and if you treat the gut, the brain fog gets better. I mean, so it gets to be, and how many. So you have to be a specialist with the brain, then you have to be a specialist with the intestine. Why don't you just be an integrative doctor and to understand that there's a link between both, and how can I help the patient get rid of the brain fog, and what came first, the brain fog or the intestine, and how can I treat them?
Everything is in the gut, isn't it? It's
really
crazy. I mean, I keep telling the audience too, back in the day of the caveman time, the gut was the first brain, because we weren't cooking the food. We weren't really we were mostly gathering grains and whatever. But when we developed fire and we were able to cook the food, and the digestive system didn't have to take as much energy to digest the food, then the brain started developing more and more. And then the brain became the lead and the gut became the second lead. So, but it's still, like you said, the most powerful portion of our system, because if we don't absorb nutrients, we'll die. So.
And it's hard to get to the answers of the gut, because you can't go down and look at it. A GI doctor can look at it and can some biopsies, but you really can't get to it very easily. And that's why sometimes you need companies that have special tests, and not to try to give any advertising, but Vibrant America, which has some of the most amazing tests that tell you whether or not you're allergic to wheat or gluten or mycotoxins. It's just amazing how some of these companies can really tell a physician what their patient has. And, I bet you many people out there say, well, am I gluten intolerant or not? Sometimes I can have it, sometimes I can't. You're not sensitive enough to know sometimes. And many people who think they're on a gluten-free diet, in fact, aren't. And they never get better because they never really get off it. So, again, a responsibility of a doctor is to find out, do you have or do you not have a sensitivity to these foods? And if so, they're hidden gluten and soy sauce and all this other stuff. You need to become a little compulsive to find out if you're better. So it takes sometimes to step outside traditional medicine, because the GI doctors today don't really spend a lot of time recommending to people they take tests that sometimes they have to pay for. Insurance don't cover it. So it's a whole complex barriers to care that we get. But if you keep an open mind and realize you don't know much, and your doctor knows just about a little bit more than you, you can look around and you can Google gut brain, leaky gut. What's it all about?
YouTube's amazing too, because there's so many medical doctors on YouTube right now that are talking about this stuff, like, at a very high level position like yourself, who say, look, there are things that you guys eat. And there's like lectures that, doctors go to these seminars and they actually post it on YouTube so that the layman can actually sit in and listen to what doctors are being taught. So I've been watching a lot of these things, and I'm learning about, the things that I've been doing are correct, but I think I'm missing the boat on something, that I haven't completely put myself in a place of remission where I'm not in pain or I'm not having these gastrointestinal issues. So, it's tough, and I totally respect your medical profession, because you guys aren't able to spend as much time on each person. It's hard for you guys to take the time to listen to everything and try to get an answer in a matter of 20, 30 minutes per patient. And even if you follow up, how much research time do you have to do research on the person, right? So it's kind of hard.
That's why you rely on some people who are smarter, and there's always someone smarter. And you listen to him or her, and you sit there and understand it as a physician, then you can implement it. Now, sometimes it's supplements. Sometimes the way to improve the microbiome of your body, how not to let it get disrupted, how to diagnose that you have different things, and then how to go about healing. And it takes effort. But the joy of it all is when people get better without giving them drugs.
Yeah.
There's nothing against the drugs, but
they have their place, but still.
But they, as a cardiologist, clearly that you need drugs to help lower someone's blood pressure, but you have to ask them, why is it up? And they have this truncal obesity. If they lose the truncal obesity, their blood pressure goes down, their cholesterol gets better, their diabetes gets better. So then how do you lose the truncal obesity? And they go on a special diet that selectively removes the intra-abdominal fat and so forth. And so there's always, once you begin looking, you begin answers. And since I've been around a long time, I have a lot of answers. I still have a lot more questions, though.
No, it seems like the more you learn, the more questions you have, because now you're dissecting even deeper and deeper into that situation. What do you think about intermittent fasting and healing the gut, or fasting for 24 hours?
So here's what I think. I have a method I've used for the last 12 years of using homeopathic HCG and put them on a low-calorie diet. And it's Simeon's diet, and it's published everywhere. And it's the only one up until recently that selectively gets rid of the intra-abdominal fat. But the fast that you just mentioned is right. Now, most of us, when we go home and we eat dinner at 6:30, and then we watch football games or whatever else, at 9 o'clock we'll get a dish of ice cream, or at 10 o'clock we'll get some pretzels or something, and we go to bed at 11:30. But now they say, if you sat there and said, okay, 6:30, that's it, I'm not going to eat anything for the next 14 hours. Well, the next 14 hours is just 8:30 tomorrow morning. So if you actually give yourself a fast, a firm fast, for 12 to 14 hours, 6 days a week, you start losing weight.
Yeah.
Just we want to lose weight.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, I think the fast is a great thing. Now, this thing about going on for 20 hours or 18 hours is crazy. And to become a vegetarian when you shouldn't be, or or not be a vegetarian when you should be, it gets to be complicated. But I can tell you that when I see patients who go on that fast, a fast of 12 to 14 hours, they lose weight and they start feeling better and they get rid of things. So I think I think it's a real advantage to begin to read about that and to try to implement that. And how it makes so much sense to do it that way.
There were some publications too, sir, that you're talking about with the 18-hour fast being about water fast. It's on like autophagy production, so you're detoxing the cells, and then 24 hours the stimulation of the stem cells in your body, so that your body can actually start healing the gut and other areas of the system. And then when you get a little bit longer than that, but they don't recommend that to people who haven't built their system to be able to sustain that kind of fast. But beyond that, you get the neurological repair, the BDNR in the brain gets stimulated, if I said that correctly. And then your neurotransmitters, everything just starts getting back to a place of homeostasis. And some of these publications are talking about a 14-hour fast for women and 16-hour fast for men, maybe 4 or 5 days a week. Or maybe you do one major fast a week.
I'm not that smart about it, but I would be quite cautious about that. When you read articles that, and that's extreme, 16 hours, and they start saying that it boosts stem cells. But I'm from Missouri. Show me the stem cells get better. Show me a long period of time people that do this. So I suspect that's the last thing I would do, is let my patient do a 16-hour fast. I would move them down the path and watch them carefully, and the articles that purport that, I would look at it critically.
Right.
And I wonder always, is there some secondary gain? Is somebody selling something? that goes along with that 16-hour fast. I don't mean to be cynical, but
No, it's always good to
apply.
be critical. I think you
Yeah,
should always be critical, especially when
well,
you don't know your body, and you
I think you have to be very careful when you
yeah,
do a drastic change to your physiology.
sure.
And I think the water fast, and it kind of scares me a little bit. But so I don't know about it. But if somebody came to me and wanted to do that, I would research it deeply, and I would look at it critically. And many times when I do that, and I hear someone mention like that, what you just said, I find that it's faulty in the logic, and it hasn't been studied long enough, and in some people it would be dangerous. So
Yeah, some people I usually tell them, like, look, you don't know unless you know yourself well enough, you've done enough research on your body and the way it responds to certain things, and your doctor knows you well, and you, like I told somebody before, like the ketogenic diet that's out there, right? It's supposed to be a really good diet, and I'm sure it is, but for me it wasn't, because I was smart enough to work with a doctor. He did blood work on me. I checked my liver. I think my protein lipid A or so something, one of those, was a bit on the higher end, and my doctor was smart enough to say, look, Bianca, I don't think this diet is for you, because instead of you dropping your cholesterol and dropping, these numbers, that number stays high. So maybe your body can't process certain fats as well as you think. So you don't stay on that diet. You got to be smart.
right, and I think I know there's a group of young ladies who called nutritional genomics, and they analyze DNA from your saliva, and they, who I respect, say there are, of the many different types of genetic predisposition, they mentioned there's only two small groups of people that would benefit from a ketogenic diet from a genetic standpoint. So I'm quite careful about that, and I think extreme doing things extreme for long periods of time without a doctor monitoring you carefully, except somebody who's enthusiastic about it and follows them carefully, I think is dangerous. So I think you have to be careful.
Yeah.
And I, like everything, sometimes the ketogenic diet is great for somebody, but not for everybody.
Right.
It's the old lecture that if someone, as a cardiologist, someone says, Dr. Delaney, do you think everybody should be on an aspirin? Well, if I said that, yes, I could kill 3 people.
Yeah.
They're bleeding. So you have to be, not everybody shouldn't do anything. But so you have to be careful, and so I think when somebody purports or talks about a certain modality that's not mainstream and that seems to be a little extreme, you have to be very careful when you say it, because some people who have brittle diabetes, who have kidney stones, who have other conditions, when they go on, they get very sick. You have to be, careful. That doesn't mean you thwart it. You begin looking at it critically, and I think I'm a conservative old guy. So
no, it's good. It's always good to be conservative, because you don't know, because you might have a toxic load in your system, and you start doing things like this, like fasting, or, doing a new diet that may change the way your body processes energy. Toxins get released, and then you feel sick. And you feel bad, and you get scared because if you don't understand the body. I always tell people you need to work with someone who understands what to do if you are too toxic. How do you flush it out? What your lymphatic system may not be working at optimal level. You don't know. So it's good stuff to know. Talking about all this stuff too, we have this now, pandemic of the COVID-19, new coronavirus out there. People are freaking out because they're going to get sick. But you and I are in the same boat. I think you were coming to me the last time we were talking about how to build your immune system. Why don't you think about that instead of worrying about catching it? Right. Build your immune system. So let's talk about that, because you have some system that you worked on that you think works pretty well.
Well, I think common sense. A lot of people who get COVID, most people get through it. 14, 21 days, they're sick, and they get through it. Some people don't get through it. They get very sick. They go in the hospital. They die, or or they come out and they have diseased lungs and sometimes diseased hearts, and they may be the same age. Now we know that patients over the age of 65 or 70, especially men, are at higher risk than someone 22. But we see somebody 44 years old is very sick, and so why do they get it and someone else not? So what I do is I steal information from people smarter than me. Dr. Klinghardt, who's a famous integrative doctor up in Oregon and came from Germany or Switzerland, was around when the first SARS virus came, 12 years ago and so forth. And he talked about the most important thing you can do is to give some of these plant-based herbs and graphis to help build the immune system. And darn if that doesn't work. And people need to consume a high dose of vitamin C on a baseline basis. And you can get chewable vitamin C pills and consume 500 milligram pills. You can take 2 pills twice a day, and you boost your body's level of vitamin C because the coronavirus doesn't like vitamin C.
Right.
And the other thing he told me about pork, and have you heard about the pork and the ACE2? Well, we have receptors on our cells. And one of the receptors, and there's a different name for them, is ACE2. Coronavirus loves that receptor. And pork, when you eat bacon and pork, it makes your body have more of those receptors.
Huh.
So I believe that during this pandemic, I'm not trying to put pork people out of business, but you should not consume pork because of ACE2. And those, as I listen to me, just Google ACE2 and pork and corona, and you'll see. So I think if I have a patient, and I have patients, I put them on vitamin C in some form. I put them on andrographis. I put them on vitamin D. Now, let me tell you, here in Boston, if you go into the hospital and you have a normal vitamin D level, and I'm going to say the level's between 60 and 90, folks,
Yeah.
they don't go on the respirator.
Amazing, right?
They hang up. So taking vitamin D every day, because you only get it from the sun, and, you need to take, everybody needs to make sure they take vitamin D every day, or they make sure they have a good level. And it's personalized. The dose of vitamin D, if I gave you 5,000 units a day, could make you right at the right level, and someone else it's still low. It's got to be individualized. It's not just a routine dose. So patients should get their vitamin D levels checked, and if it's not between 60 and 90, they should take more. That protects you against corona. Vitamin C protects you. Andrographis, the herbal medicine, protects you.
What
Zinc,
about don't forget about zinc. What about the difference between the ascorbic acid and actual, the other part of the vitamin C? How do you get the pure potent part of vitamin C?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So what she was alluding to is vitamin C is more than just vitamin C, ascorbic acid. There's 6 or 7 other elements. And standard process in the cataplex C have all the elements. And so the dose that many integrative doctors use, they use 3 pills 3 times a day of the cataplex C, which gives you the whole C. Remember the limeys?
Yeah.
The limeys, they would people would get scurvy on board ship until they squeezed lime. They put limes and they squeezed lime, and they didn't get vitamin C deficiency. Well, there's 5 or 6 different parts, and so in vitamin C. So that the best thing would be to have, what you just alluded to, is to have a vitamin C that has rutin. And if you Google the complete vitamin C, you see articles. Oh my gosh, it's not just ascorbic acid. And so, but as far as protecting yourself against corona, if you give someone plain vitamin C, it really does help the corona anyway. So it would be better to give the whole vitamin C.
Right.
If you don't have the whole vitamin C, you can take ascorbic acid, a large dose every day at a nominal cost, and it will protect you. So I put all my patients on some reasonably cost, biologically plausible supplements that help boost their immune system to protect them. And how do we know? Well, they don't get sick. I mean, you can't prove it. And so then if they do get sick, I boost the vitamin C up right away, and I give them more of this and more of that. So there's a preventive system. You have to, being overweight, smoking, not taking any fish oils, never taking vitamin D, and you wonder, they can't fight the corona if they get exposed as well as someone else. So you want to prepare yourself in this kind of.
Isn't it amazing how people don't understand the value of vitamin C and zinc? You were talking about zinc before. I mean, zinc is huge. I've done a lot of shows on zinc and vitamin C, but
zinc prevents the infection from getting in the cell. It helps stop it from getting in the cell. So, and you can get a zinc test, zinc level, blood level, that can help. And standard process has this bottle, the zinc tally test. And if you take a squirt of this in your mouth, and you have the patient hold it and say, "What do you taste?" They go, "Nothing." They're zinc deficient, because if they weren't zinc deficient, they would hate the taste. So,
What was it called again? Because I mentioned this on a couple shows before, and I didn't have the name for it.
It's the Zinc, Z-I-N, Tally, T-A-L-L-Y test. And it's a bottle you buy from Standard Process, and I give it to my patients. And I give them a squirt, and they say, "Well, it tastes kind of murky." And I go, "Well, you're deficient in zinc." And I give them some zinc.
Nice.
So it's amazing how we're deficient in some key nutrients. But especially in this the coronavirus,
yeah.
you want to give yourself supplements that have been shown to have biological plausibility to build your immune system, protect you against it. That would be, again, vitamin D, zinc, some form of vitamin C, some antigraphis, some other herbal medicine. Congaplex is another one. And I think you prepare. It's just common sense you do that.
Well, you talk about, the building the immune system, but then what actually happens to the immune system when you are exposed to a virus like SARS or COVID-19? I mean, I know you have a timeline for that. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So, what we believe, and people smarter than me believe this, that what's unique about this coronavirus, we have two types of immune systems. We have the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. The innate immune system is designed to fight right away. You get an infection, you get a bacteria, these natural killer cells get made, T cells get made, and they start fighting for you. It takes about 5 or 6, 7 days for the adaptive immune system to start fighting, both making antibodies, but more importantly, making some other T cells very, very ferocious. Well, this virus gets in so fast, it overwhelms the body, and the innate immune system can't catch up, and then by the time it tries to, they're too weak, and then they still fighting, and then they overkill. They call the cytokine storm. I know you heard about that.
Right.
But then they overdo it, and they start killing healthy tissues. So I think building up the innate immune system is the most important thing, and that's why. And we don't know exactly what the formula is, but I can tell you it's probably a combination of antigraphis, vitamin C, zinc, healthy eating, and so forth.
And
so,
sleep.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely sleep, right?
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. I keep telling people, especially with fibromyalgia. I mean, I haven't, knock on wood, gotten sick, really sick in a very long time. And I think because I've been building my immune system. But if I don't sleep, my fibromyalgia kicks in. Like I'm in pain and I'm feeling like crap. But when I sleep 7 to 9 hours every single day and I get that in, I'm able to sustain a normal existence to most days. And I think sleep has that. There was a science behind it too that says that 7 to 9 hours, basically your body's able to combat any type of infection that could be coming at you better than someone who doesn't. You're more able to absorb nutrients better too. And
how common is it that people have sleep disorders? And the question is, do you have trouble getting to sleep, or do you go to sleep and you have trouble waking up? One common thing that helps is vitamin D. In the brainstem, there are receptors that go unstimulated because people have a low vitamin D level. People who are very deficient in vitamin D and they can't sleep, I'm thrilled to see in my office. I say, good, I have something that's going to help you. You're going to start taking vitamin D. And so vitamin D is so important in so many ways. Do you know that there's 4 levels of sleep?
Right.
And 2 of them, we become paralyzed during sleep. And the purpose of that paralysis is to let us heal. And you can only reach that part of the sleep pattern if your vitamin D level is above 40. So taking vitamin D to protect you against corona, to help your sleep, and to allow you to heal while you're sleeping. And no one talks about it. And it's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
The average person needs about 5,000 units a day. Maybe some people need 10, some people need 2, but you certainly need more than 1,000.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And if you look in the things, they say, the normal level is 30. No, the normal level, I'll say it again. And if you go ask your doctors, they say, no, that's crazy. That's a Dr. Delaney. He's crazy. No, I'm not. The normal level of
Yeah,
vitamin
you
D
want
should
60. Yeah.
be between 60 and 90.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's guaranteed because I'm usually, as a fibromyalgia patient, my numbers are always low. I'm always at 20 or 30. And when it gets that low, I know that it's low because I can feel it. But I know that with this pandemic and with people's fear factor on catching this, it's pretty simple. You practice the distancing and do your thing, but in the meantime, eat good food, get some sleep, get your supplementation, see your practitioner if there's any type of issues that may be coming up so that your body doesn't start breaking down. But I think it's a good idea. Doctor, don't go anywhere. I'm going to do a 30-second commercial break. It's
Sure, no
actually John and Kelly's commercial, and then we'll be right back. Hold on, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Have you heard of microcurrent therapy? If you suffer from chronic pain, arthritis, sports injuries, ligament injuries, or migraines, the electroequiscope can help. This non-invasive treatment system is drug-free and shows no negative side effects. If you are seeking pain relief and want to boost your immune system, schedule a demonstration or consultation by calling Kelly, your microcurrent electrotoxologist, at 485-9697 or follow on Instagram at Kelly's Time. Make your appointment today.
We are back. So
I have to say something.
Go ahead.
Those who listen to that commercial should call Kelly and schedule 3 visits.
I know.
And help their hip or help their back or help their elbow or their trigger finger or whatever.
Or even their mindset. I mean, because I find that it's so relaxing. Like if you're stressed out, like really, like she laughs at me every time I walk in her office because you can tell that I'm a very
does she put a headband on you? Is that
yeah,
what she does?
She does, and then she starts putting those ear clips on me, and then she puts it in delta frequency, and all of a sudden I start getting really comfortable, and I start getting my verbiage starts really slow down. I'm not talking so fast, and then I'm like, I'm sort of yawning. She starts laughing. I'm like, what? She goes, "You're such an A-type personality. When you're laying on my table in like 2 seconds, you're back to like normal." And I'm like, this machine's amazing.
Everybody should have that in their house.
I'm telling you. Oh my God. I talked to John briefly. I'm like, John, is there like a used one? Cause I like to buy it just to have one. And I'd be on that thing all the time. I'd be putting it on my cats. I'd be treating my cats with it. Cause you can treat anything, any living organism with it basically, as long as they have a nervous system. I think it's really interesting, but it's funny. Yeah. The commercial is designed to keep people aware of this. I mean, the reason why I'm advocating it so much, and you're understand it because you use it and you're probably a patient and a practitioner on this. This is really just amazing, for me because I can't take medication. So, the pain levels that I endure every day, people don't understand. It's severe. I mean, it affects I get migraines I used to. And if I have major pain, my heart rhythmia gets bad. I have heat in my system. Then I get these, stomach issues. So it's not a very comfortable existence, but having something that's not medicated, and being able to get myself once a week to her office and get the maintenance going, because I've been doing this for a year, has really given me an opportunity to feel secure and supported without having to worry about constantly having to take a pill, which is a big deal for me.
Yeah. Well, I think you've learned the benefit, but anybody who, and I think your condition is more complex.
Yeah.
That patients only need about 3 or 6 sessions, and they'll see the benefit. And if anybody
huge.
It just. But I have one of my staff members trained. I flew her out to California to learn how to do it twice, and so she does it, and I do it, and it's so much. It's so easy. It really is simple, and it's so gratifying to see them get up from the chair and they're already better.
Yeah, it feels like a deep tissue massage after you're done.
Yeah, but what I like about it is that it's actually getting to the cause a little bit. It really is. It's not just giving you an analgesic or pain relief. It's getting the reason you feel better is because it's healing. It's healing. I mean, people get better and they stay better. And before then they were getting shots of cortisone in their shoulder,
right? Epidural,
and that just takes the inflammation away, and then it makes that area age quicker. And so
Well, anything you can do to bring back the anti-aging system in lead versus the autonomic, if you can get that sympathetic nervous system in place, I think you have a longer, and you're able to live a longer life, right? You want to live a quality life, but you can live longer because your body is in an inflammation state. So, this is huge, guys. I mean, I have a, quadruple board certified doctor telling you guys this. This is not just, and I'm not selling this, so I'm not even making any profit from this. I'm not getting anything from this. I'm just sharing this because this is huge for me to discover. And, I actually found,
I'm on this radio show or just because you asked me. I have no secondary gain or anything, but I'm telling you folks that these types of, this information about building your immune system up with key supplements, considering a technology like the microvoltage treatment, is so important. Taking vitamin D on a daily basis to keep your levels high. This is basic 101, and it's really, really helpful. Some people will be life-saving. So, it's just something to listen to. And I'm glad that you have this radio show to kind of reveal some of this stuff because you're not hearing it. I know you're not hearing it.
Yeah.
And you should be hearing it because it's really valuable.
Well, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on the show, Dr. Delaney. You are a very busy man, I understand, and I
consider myself inefficient, but that's okay.
No, you're a wonderful person for always constantly giving to people and sharing knowledge and information. And I'm grateful to John and Kelly to connecting me with you for this show. And I look forward to hopefully in the near future bring you back on again and kind of chit chat some more if you have the time.
Right. I'll be happy to. And I just want to all your listeners, I hope you all stay safe and be healthy.
Wonderful.
And don't be scared. The pandemic is going to go away, but boost your immune system and keep listening to this show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I bring on doctors like you. I mean, you can't get better than this. So I appreciate you, doctor. Thank you for taking the time. I wish you a very good night, and we'll chat soon.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, you guys, this was great. I mean, I know we spent a lot of time on the electroecoscope. It's just because this is something that he and I have a connection to together as far as our knowledge and information on what it can do to our bodies. But when it comes to being informed, it's really necessary. Like he said, Google is one thing too, but it's also good to go on these medical websites, going on YouTube and listening to some seminars that doctors have to listen to or go to for their continuous education. Learning about the human body is important because when you start having issues, going to your doctor and having that one family doctor is not enough. Even specialists have to go and collaborate. Like he said, he goes to someone smarter than him to learn more about what he needs to do for a patient. So if he has to go to someone else to get help, you and I, as laymen who are not doctors, really need to empower ourselves to understand what's going on with our system. So to recap real quickly, supplementation, he said, is important. Vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, staying away from pork, he said, because of the factor that it creates a certain attraction to the virus to attach itself to the cells. Making sure that you get enough sleep. These are all common stuff, right? And then also understanding how the body system works so that, when you catch virus, what do? You go to the doctor, obviously, and get yourself tested. But, in the meantime, how do you keep yourself from getting worse, right? These are the modalities that we discussed. But when it comes to supplementation too, guys, don't forget, when you go to my website, Be Fit for Health, I also have an icon for USANA. I work with them. I take their product because it's a very high quality, potent supplement. They sell vitamin D, which is one pill is equated to 5,000 milligrams of vitamin D. And then they sell high potent vitamin C, which is also good for you guys. So make sure you take a look at that. Empower yourselves. Be well. Please take care of yourselves and stay healthy, okay? I wish you all the best. Aloha.